It's finally here. Arknights collab with Dungeon Mish. So as this is a collab banner and we are going to get a new 6-star operator, I thought, let's make a Shuju pull video. But this video is going to be a bit difficult to recommend to you guys because I think, well, majority of us, including me, we're just going to be like, well, this is a limited banner that we'll probably never see again. So obviously we're all going to pull, right? I understand. But there's also some of Arknights players that really wants to focus their pulls on, the really easy to use operators, or dare I say just meta operators. So there's that group of people as well. So for those of us who's gonna pull anyway, maybe you can keep watching the video and understand like which skills you want to mastery, like you want to M3 and whatnot, and also with modules, why would you want to turn on the module and go to level 3 module. And also some of us who just probably don't know why a lot of people keep saying, well, you should buff Marcille. I'll also explain why. And for those of you who just don't want to focus your pulls, you don't want to use your pulls on operators that isn't going to benefit your gameplay, well, you can learn from this video why Marcille will not benefit your gameplay majority of the time. Obviously, there are some really, really rare cases that you can probably use her, but those are really rare. So with that all being said, I think we can go into the details of the operators. And by the way, even if you're not going to pull for Marcille, I would still highly recommend you go and pull for Chillchuck, just because he did shine in CC3 that just went by in CN. So if you're a CC guy and you're like, I must go for the highest risk in CCs, well, yeah, you'll be getting Chillchuck anyway, but we do get 23 pulls, so no pressure with that. And I think that's all I need to say before we go into the operators. So let's go. And this is Marcille. So she is a splash caster, so AoE caster. The reason why her DP is only 25 is because I've got potential 1, and I also have her module unlocked, which does decrease her DP by another 8. So usually I would be having 33 DP cost right now if I was at pot 2, and if I was at pot 1, it would be 34 DP. So yes, she is a bit expensive to deploy, but that's obviously the first reason why you do want to unlock her module no matter what, if you do want to use her eventually. And as we can see, really high base stats as per usual for this class of operators. Now let's take a look at her talents and modules. So her first talent is that all of her skills consumes mana instead of SP, and all of her skills can be activated no matter like whenever you want, as long there is enough mana to do so. And mana does not naturally regenerate when she is on the field. It only regenerates when she's off the field for 1 point per second. And whenever she does have mana, she will have plus 20% attack, and she will have a higher splash damage for her attacks. So usually AoE casters, splash casters, would have a 1.1 tile radius of splashed area, while she will have 1.5 radius splash area if she has at least 1 mana left. So whenever you do use her skills, you do want to leave at least 1 mana left, like let's say with her skill 2, which is an AFK skill. So the thing about mana is that it doesn't naturally regenerate when she's on the field, but you can use other operators to regenerate mana for her. Like let's say example, you can use the Shu like Nian sibling buff, which does give her 1 SP like once every 3 seconds, if I recall correctly. You can also do Mostima or Telopsis SP regen abilities, or you can also use SP recharge device in IS. All those sorts of things will actually allow her to regenerate mana when she's on the field. And usually when she's off the field, as you can see here, she will have a ring of green light around her icon that actually shows how much mana she has right now. So once this goes completely surrounds the icon of her, that means she has max mana. And like once you get used to like, oh, how much mana this means, and then you'll be able to tell naturally. Like once you pay attention to it like once in a while, you'll just naturally know it. So her second talent is that she will have plus 25 initial mana. So as you can see, I have 40 here. That's because my Marcille is at module level 3. So if you didn't have module level 2 or level 3, then you will only be plus 25 initial mana. That's kind of why that you do want to make sure you do have module level 3 with her, because I would say that you really do need this. Now, the second part of her talent is that whenever your team has 4 Laios party operators, so all 4 of the collab operators, all Laios team operators will gain 25 attack speed and 35% attack. So this second half of this talent is actually really weak in my opinion. First off, you do want to bring all of them, in which this isn't really the most optimal way, especially like you can probably use Senshi, but Laios isn't really the best in my opinion, dare I say. I mean, he's funny, but like it's not that well. And plus, this only applies to this team, not all the operators in the team. So that also kind of sucks. I would have really wished like module or something would have made this better, but that's just not the case. So that is that. I really think they could have made this talent a bit better, but essentially it's just giving you plus 40 initial mana. And like, you know what I feel? It's you're taking your initial SP away, which a lot of operators have, right? And because her max mana is 80, usually you would see operators that have like 65 initial SP and it takes 15 seconds to get ready. Well, she just takes that mana away from her initial mana, like initial SP from her skill, and just add it back in with her talent. That's just the vibe it gives off, to be honest. So I don't really like this second talent, but meh, it is what it is. Alrighty, that would be it for the talent and her module, and why you want to raise her module to level 3. So skill 1. So after a short amount of chanting, which is roughly 2 seconds, I would say, her skill will activate, and whenever she attacks, she will consume 2 mana. So at most she can deal 40 times, and with the attack interval of 2.9 seconds, that is pretty long when it comes to the skill duration for this skill. And her attack will increase by up to 140%. When there is no enemies though, this skill turns into a healing skill and actually heals your operators. Now, the interesting thing about this skill is that this actually provides a really high amount of healing, like almost 1,000 healing per second roughly. So that is a lot of healing when it comes to like the operators that can actually heal. Like, she's actually quite up there. The bad thing is this, even though it's a lot of healing per second, because of the attack interval, if there's like a lot of enemies hitting on one of your operators at the same time, they might be taken down before she can heal them again. So that thing kind of sucks. And also this healing only occurs when there is no enemies within her attack range. So that can also kind of hurt. So as you can see, I just never bothered with this skill. Oh, also, and you can just turn the skill off whenever you want, but like I really don't see the point in that, because like you're either healing or you're not healing. If you don't heal, your operators will just die anyway. And if there is no if there's no need to heal because your operators aren't getting attacked, the mana kind of acts like ammo anyway, so no mana will be wasted. So I don't really see a point in turning this skill off no matter what. And this is probably the only skill that I just wouldn't be bothered recording a footage for, because it's not that worth raising. As you can see, mine is only stuck at skill level 7. So that would be skill 1. Now, this is the best skill in my opinion. Skill 2. After 11 seconds of chanting, which she cannot do anything during that duration, consume 35 mana and summon a creature. As if you've guys watched the anime, you will know the creature that is the logo, the icon of this skill. Her attack will be increased by 100%, and whenever her attack hits a target, and all target that is affected by her skill will be slowed for 0.5 seconds. Now, the second time she uses her skill, she will have increased 1 attack speed, so her attack range becomes that of a sharpshooter, so like Exia or Cruz, those kind of snipers, and attack speed increased by 60. And whenever she attacks, the main target of her attack will be stunned by 0.5 seconds. The skill duration is infinite, and the first time that you use this skill, you can pause it whenever you want. So essentially, this skill is a 22 second to warm up, 71 mana. Why 71? Because remember, her first talent, you want at least 1 mana on her to be able to gain that attack buff. So that combined is a 22 second with 71 mana skill to get the full potential of this skill. And trust me, this is actually a pretty good AFK skill because you're getting a ton of damage. In terms of damage, I think it's actually better than AS skill 2 actually. So that's really good. You got great splash range as well, and you got stall, which is really important if you really think about it, because this is AoE stall and as well. So this skill will be really useful if you are a relatively new player and you don't have any AFK strat operators, and you're like, okay, I really want to get into AFK strat because I want to get lazy already. This is the skill for you, and this is actually the only skill that I would recommend you to M3 as well. Now, with her SP, as you can see, she has 10 initial mana, and then with her second talent, you will gain another 40 at module level 3. That means if you want to get to 71 mana, you will probably be waiting for about 21 seconds. So 21 seconds is actually pretty good, considering that, well, first you'll be summoning all your vanguards, bursting out all your DP, and then you can summon her basically immediately. But if you didn't have the module, you will have only plus 25 initial mana. That means you will be starting at 35 mana. That going to 71 actually takes 36 seconds. So there is quite a gap there. And since it also takes 21 seconds of chanting for her skill to actually be like full potential, you're actually delaying the activation of her full skill 2 by quite a bit without getting her module to level 3. And that is like the biggest reason why I would recommend most people to get her module to level 3 if you really want to use her, especially for AFK strats, because I just love AFK strats. So that would be it for skill 2. So at last, skill 3. So upon activating the skill, she will chant. She'll be entering a 5 seconds of chanting, and after that, she will consume 8 mana and cause an explosion directly in front of her at the end of her attack range, so 3 tiles in front of her, and cause 390% of her attack as arch damage to surrounding enemies. Now, if she hits a high ground with that high ground will quote unquote shatter, which it doesn't really, but it will stun surrounding enemies for 4 seconds. Now, there is another part of the chanting, which is after the 5 seconds of chanting, it will automatically add another 10 seconds of chanting, which you can stop to just cause the 1 explosion. But if you don't stop it and get a total of 15 seconds of chanting, then you will use all remaining mana, which for every 8 extra mana you spend, you will cause 1 more explosion. So that's a total of 10 explosions. So I think you can see how that 10 explosions with 3,900% of her total attack as arch damage isn't really that impressive, looking at her attack stats right over there. And at the end of the day, if you're really comparing arch damage, Eyjafjalla Volcano does more damage than that. But not just that, because it takes a total of 15 seconds of chanting combined, if you do want to use this skill, you have to predict 15 seconds before you need the burst damage. Can you see that? Like the relationship between that? Like even if it's just the first phase, right? Just 5 seconds of chanting, you gotta predict, oh, I'm going to need a 4-second stun 5 seconds later. And that is the biggest reason why I think skill 3 is really not the most optimal operator to like the most optimal skill to use. Not only you're not getting a lot of damage even if you use all your mana at once, and hence the operator is just not going to be used for the remainder of the stage, but even if you do use her and just get that bit of stun, like 4 seconds of stun for every 5 seconds, which sounds really cool, right? But you've got to predict it 5 seconds beforehand, in which you've got to know the stage really well. And when do you know the stage really well? IS. Now, so in IS, you'll be getting like CC control duration collectibles. So if you get one of those, well, 4 seconds of stun time becomes 8 seconds. So 5 seconds of chanting for 8 seconds of stun. Now that is really good, but you still need that 5 seconds of protection. And if that's the case, why don't I just use Texas Alter anyway, which still gives me good stun and good CC. And if I have extra duration of stun, well, Texas Alter does get really good stun. Plus, in IS5, right, all 3 bosses that we have right now are immune to stuns. So you're not getting that much out of her in any of those endings. So it's just not really worth it in my opinion. And yeah, that's about it for skill 3. I would say at the end of the day, if you're not like me and you're like, well, I'm not really reviewing, but like, let's say if you're reviewing operators, if you're not reviewing operators, I hope when you're M3ing this skill, you know exactly what you're getting into. All you'll get is 1 extra second of stun and a tiny bit of damage. That's it. So unless you know you absolutely need it, and you are convinced that you can predict every single time, like 5 seconds later, I'm going to need a stun, then I would recommend, only in that situation, I would recommend you to M3 her skill 3. Otherwise, not recommended for anyone, to be honest. That would be it for skill 3. So at last, I would like to talk about which kind of players and what kind of content that you probably want to be using her. So as I said again, for her skill 2, you can use her as your AFK operator if you don't happen to have operators like AF Yetla, Logos, and like those good arts damage AFK operators. She's a pretty good choice. If you want to just clear content with AFK strats, she's also kind of usable, but just don't forget that there is a 22-second combined time. Obviously, you can first use skill 2 once and then let her attack for a bit and then wait for a void and then activate like the second chanting, but that is that. And when it comes to game like modes like CC, obviously there is a potential there because she's not really limited by any SP debuffs, as I would see, because she's already in, she's not even deployed, and she wouldn't be quite affected by like decreased SP regeneration, I would suppose. And obviously you can get good stuns out of her if you really like get that done. And with her skill 3, obviously you just need to predict like 5 seconds ahead when you need the stun. So that is in CC you can kind of do that, but it just depends on whenever we will ever get a CC for that, in which CC is basically dead anyway, and she hasn't shined in any CC from like ever since now to CN. So meh, whenever that is gonna happen, we'll see. When it comes to IS, like I mentioned, even I don't use her. Like, you got way better arts damage operators, and if you really want to stun, you can just grab Texas Alter anyway. And I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of enemies have stun resistance nowadays, so the like appeal of having AoE stun isn't as great as, let's say, when Texas Alter was first released. That's just how it is nowadays. And when it comes to SSS, her skill 2 is actually pretty good in my opinion for SSS AFK strats. I think she works perfectly for me. So I highly recommend her with SSS AFK strats if you're into that kind of thing. Obviously, if you want to do manual skills and you're going with skill 3, I again wouldn't really recommend, just because of how low the damage skill 3 is. And again, needing to predict activation time by 15 seconds is kind of a pain in the arse in my opinion, and just really wouldn't recommend it. When it comes to RA, I can't say much about RA because I haven't really used her in RA personally, or should I just say I just don't play RA most of the time. So that is that. But I think that by listening to all the things I have to say about her skill set, I think you can make up your own mind on if she's worthy of usage in RA. So that would be it for Marcille. Hopefully you guys found something useful in this video. If you're gonna pull her anyway, I hope that you found a use case for her. Skill 2 I'm looking at. And then if you were considering about if you wanted to pull her, well, I guess you can make up your mind now if you really do want to spend at most 100 pulls. Again, we do get 23 pulls, so you know, 100 pulls for her, is it worth it for you or not? I hope you've made up your mind, and I will see you guys in the next video. obviously where I will be pulling her and most likely going to reach that 120 PT mark. So I'll see you guys in that one. Bye.